Hello everyone, I am Anubhav, Assistant Professor in ITBHU, and today I'll talk about properties of pure substance. So this is the outline. We'll discuss about what is a pure substance, how do we define phase and phase change, and then we'll look into different ways or diagrams where we plot different processes. So we'll look into PV, PT and these various diagrams. We also talk about how to generate a PVT surface. Then we'll define what is a triple point and critical point. We'll also look at different equations of state and talk about compressibility factor. So just to begin with, how do we classify matter? Okay, or when you have a substance, it could either be a pure substance or a mixture. Okay. Pure substance can further be divided into elements such as hydrogen, carbon or iron, or compounds, which are examples are water, carbon dioxide or acetone. Now mixtures can be divided into either heterogeneous or homogeneous mixtures. Okay. So for example, gas mixtures, air is a homogeneous mixture, or you have superheated steam. So homogeneous mixtures can sometimes be treated as pure substance as long as there is no phase change. Okay. So gas mixture, solutions or alloys can be treated as pure substance as long as there is no phases involved. Otherwise, strictly speaking, these are the pure substance that we should consider. Moving on. So let us just define what is a pure substance and how do we define a phase. So substance that has a fixed chemical composition, it has to be homogeneous and should have a fixed chemical composition throughout its mass. That is called a pure substance. What we see in the last slide, it could be either an element or a compound. Okay, and a pure substance can have more than one phase, but the chemical composition is same in all the phases. For example, we can have liquid water and water vapor. So both have a compound which is called water. They have different phases, but the chemical composition of water is same in both liquid as well as vapor form. Okay. Now let us see what is a phase. So phase is identified as having a distinct molecular arrangement that is homogeneous. Okay. And two phases are generally separated by a well identifiable boundary surface. Okay, so we look into what is this boundary surface, and these are the two keywords, homogeneous and boundary surface, to define a phase. Now let us look at some examples. So let's say we have water and oil here. So these two are both in liquid state, but they form different phases. So I can say we have two substances here, water and oil, and I have two phases here for both of them. Similarly, we could also have water plus ice. So you can see they define a boundary. So there are two phases, but there is only one substance, that is your water. So this is another example. One more example we can take is water plus water vapor, liquid water plus vapor. So again we have one substance or one pure substance, that is water, and there are two phases, liquid and gas phase. Okay, moving on. So we talk about different states of matter. These are also I have different phases. So you can either have a solid, liquid or a gas. There is also a fourth state of matter which is a plasma state, but that will not be considered in this course. We'll limit our discussion to solid, liquid and gas phase. Now if I want to convert a solid to liquid, I must heat it, and I must provide the latent heat of fusion for the solid to melt. And if I remove that heat from a liquid, it will become solid, it will freeze back. Similarly, if I want to convert a liquid to gas, I must provide latent heat of vaporization, and for sublimation I need to provide latent heat of sublimation. So we can convert different states we can change one state to another, but we need to provide the latent heat that is required for that particular phase transformation. So now let us look at how do we fix the phase of a pure substance, fixing a state. So basically how many properties are required? So for example, I have a system where let's say I have water, but the question arises that the water is at what temperature, what pressure. So we don't know anything, but the point is how many properties are required to fix its state. Okay, so let us take another example. Let's say I have, instead of water, I now have more specific property. I say that I have boiling water. Okay, so if you ask someone, if you ask a lay person, what do you know about boiling water? He will say that water is boiling at 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, which is true for atmospheric condition. It will not always be true, but for atmospheric condition, it is true that pure water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Now let us look at some different examples. Let's say I am having boiling water in a pressure cooker. So in a pressure cooker, your inside pressure could reach up to around 200 kilopascal. So for that particular pressure, the boiling point of water increases to 120 degrees Celsius, which is much higher than 100 degrees what we have at atmospheric conditions. Moreover, let's say you went to a mountain. So this is a photo of Mount Everest, which is about 8,000 meter high. So about this height you will have around 33 kilopascal of pressure, and if you try to boil water here, it will boil at 70 degrees Celsius. Okay, so saying that we have boiling water does not necessarily mean it is at 100 degrees Celsius. We also need to know what is the pressure involved. Okay, so what we see for boiling water is that we need at least one property. If I know temperature, I can be sure that it is at atmospheric conditions, or if I know pressure, I can tell at what temperature the water is boiling. Okay, so when we are trying to fix state of a pure substance, so in this example we see if I have boiling water, I need at least one property to fix the state. Okay, now let us take a look at, we'll just write it again. So boiling water has one component, which is water, two phases, and one property is required. Okay, now let us say that I have boiled that water completely, I have water vapor. So it also has one component, but it has one phase only, which is vapor phase. Now to specify or fix the coordinates or the state of this water vapor, I need two properties. So from where this number is coming, whether it is two property or one property, how do I know? So there is a rule which is known as Gibbs phase rule, which says that this is the equation for that rule, F is equal to C minus P plus 2. So what are these parameters? So F is the degree of freedom or number of properties that we need to fix the state of a system. Okay, so I will just emphasize this once more. So what do I mean by fixing the state of a system? So suppose you have a point P in a Cartesian coordinate x, y, z. So how do I know where P is, or how do I uniquely determine where P is? So in Cartesian coordinates, I will need x, y, z, three values, x, y, z coordinates for P to determine the location of P uniquely. Okay, similarly, when I talk about a pure substance, I need this F number of properties to uniquely determine the state of that pure substance. So I can say, I can actually calculate other properties if I know the state or the state is fixed. So we look at those examples later. Now let us look at this equation. So F is the degree of freedom or number of properties. C is the number of components. Okay, number of elements. So water has one. If you have a mixture of more than one, will have more component. Then P is the number of phases. Okay, so let us try to use this equation for these examples. So this is your C, this is your P, number of phases, and F is the degree of freedom or properties required. So if I put this equation here, I have C minus P plus 2 is equal to F. This you can verify in these two examples. Other examples also, if I know what are the number of components involved, I know number of the phases, I can calculate degree of freedom F using this Gibbs phase rule. So when we talk about phase changes, there are various terms what we need to define. So saturated liquid is a liquid which is about to vaporize. Okay, for example, liquid water at 100 degrees Celsius and 1 atmosphere is saturated liquid. Any additional heat you provide to this liquid will convert it to vapor. Similarly, saturated vapor is which is about to condense or which has just vaporized. So if you form water vapor at 100 degrees Celsius 1 atmosphere, that is a saturated vapor. Okay, which is very close to getting condensed, or it has just evaporated, just boiled. Now another term is subcooled or compressed liquid. So liquid that is not about to vaporize, okay, which has lower heat content or lower enthalpy than a saturated liquid. So in this diagram you can see, if this is maintained at 100 degrees Celsius, this liquid will be saturated and this is saturated vapor. So if the temperature is for 1 atmosphere, if it is lower than 100 degrees Celsius, then it is subcooled liquid. Okay. Similarly, we can define superheated vapor means the temperature will be higher than 100 degrees Celsius here of that vapor, then it is superheated vapor. That will only happen when all of this liquid is converted into vapor, and if you keep on heating, then the temperature will be higher than 100 degrees Celsius. So superheated vapor can be defined as vapor which is not about to condense or which has a higher heat content than saturated vapor, what I told just now. So it has higher temperature than a saturated vapor at that pressure. And what is saturated temperature and pressure? So Tsat is the temperature where pure substance changes phase at a given pressure. So once you fix the pressure, I have saturation temperature. So for example, water, if I fix the pressure to 1 atmosphere, the saturation temperature is 100 degrees Celsius. Similarly, I can define saturation pressure or Psat. So for Psat, it is the pressure at which a pure substance changes phases when you fix the temperature. So if I fix my temperature to 100 degrees Celsius and I keep changing pressure, water will boil at saturation pressure or 1 atmosphere. Okay. So when we are talking about phase change, and particularly for this course, we will be looking mostly into phase change between liquid and vapor. So we need to be clear with certain terms which are dealing with liquid and vapor, phase change between from liquid to vapor. So first of all, what is boiling? Boiling point. Boiling point is the temperature where your vapor pressure equals the ambient pressure. So if you are working at atmospheric conditions, your vapor pressure will become at 1 atmosphere when you reach 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, which is called normal boiling point. So the normal boiling point of a liquid is a special case where vapor pressure reaches the atmospheric pressure at sea level, which is 1 atmosphere. Now the question arises, what is a vapor pressure? So vapor pressure is the pressure which is exerted by a vapor in a thermodynamic equilibrium with its condensed phase, whether solid or liquid. So if you have a liquid and vapor in a equilibrium situation, then the pressure exerted by the vapor is known as vapor pressure, and for a given temperature in a closed system. So this vapor pressure actually indicates that what is the evaporation characteristic or how likely the liquid is to evaporate. Okay, it relates to the tendency of particles to escape from liquid surface. So if you have higher vapor pressure, it means the normal boiling point will be lower. The liquid is more likely or more quickly to get evaporated or boiled. Now there are two terms, evaporation and boiling. So the difference is that boiling will take place at boiling point or boiling temperature, but evaporation can take place at any temperature. So for example, you dry your clothes in the sun, so that your cloth will not reach boiling point of water, but they evaporate. Okay, now let us look at phase change processes step by step. So let us say, and in this example also, some of these terms what we discussed previously will be more clear. So let us say I have a piston cylinder arrangement where I have kept liquid water at 1 atmosphere and 20 degrees Celsius. Now if the pressure inside is 1 atmosphere, which means that the piston is massless and frictionless. So it is just maintaining the ambient pressure here. Now I started to heat the system. This is a subcooled liquid. I started to heat. This is my state 1. So after some time the liquid will get heated and it will reach the point where it will start boiling. Okay. So liquid phase, all of the liquid is heated up and it reaches 100 degrees Celsius where it will start boiling now. So at this point I will call this saturated liquid. Okay. Now if you heat more, then we will get a mixture of some amount of this liquid will get boiled. So it will form vapor, which is saturated vapor, because still we are maintaining 100 degrees Celsius here, and some amount of liquid will be there, which is saturated liquid. So during the process of boiling, where we have any amount of liquid left, the temperature will be held constant at 100 degrees Celsius. Okay. So this is what we normally observe. So this is actually used to calibrate your temperature scales. Your thermometers are calibrated based on the idea that boiling water is always at 100 degrees Celsius. So that from here to here the temperature is constant. Now if you keep on heating it, it will be get completely converted to vapor, and if it is at 100 degrees Celsius, it is saturated vapor. So you look at the process again. I started with liquid water, heated it to saturated liquid, then a mixture of saturated liquid plus saturated vapor. Finally I got saturated vapor. If I heat it more, it will become superheated. So it has much higher temperature than what is required for normal boiling. So at 1 atmosphere, 300 degrees Celsius is a superheated vapor. So we have passed our liquid water in these 5 stages, from state 1 to state 5. Okay. So I can list it down here. What are the different phases through these substances followed, or the liquid water what we have initially has come through. Now if I want to plot this in a TV plot, this is how it will look. Okay. So the green line that you show, that you see, this is a iso bar. So this is for P is equal to 1 atmosphere, because at all the times the temperature is pressure is remaining constant. Pressure is held constant for this complete process. Now let us have a look at this plot. So this is my state 1 shown here, a compressed liquid state. It is heated up. So this x-axis shows you volume and this y-axis shows you temperature. So once you heat this, temperature will rise with a slight change in volume, which is not much noticeable in a liquid phase. Okay. Now we have a saturated mixture, which is, so now it reaches point 2 where we have stage 2 where we have saturated liquid. This is your saturated liquid. After that, if you heat it more, it becomes saturated mixture, which is shown here, state 3. It will reach, if you keep on heating, it will reach state 4 where it is saturated vapor. Now once you start heating the saturated vapor, it becomes superheated vapor, which is shown here. So what you see, temperature increases for a liquid, remains constant for mixture, then again once it becomes vapor, the temperature starts to increase. So this is the region where we have two phases from 2 to 4, and for 1 to 2 and 4 to 5 we have one phase each. Here we have subcooled liquid, here we have superheated vapor. So this plot shows you one isotherm for 1 atmosphere. If I repeat the process for different pressures, okay, different pressure levels, and I plot all of them in this tube plot, it will look something like this. Okay, so you can see that again liquid is getting heated up, temperature is changing, then when it becomes liquid plus vapor, temperature is remaining constant, and finally when it evaporates completely, boils completely, then temperature starts to increase. So if you keep on increasing the pressure, this curve will go up. So this is for 1 megapascal, 8 megapascal, and after some point you see that we reach a critical point. Okay, so what is a critical point? Basically, after this point, at this point, the saturated liquid and saturated vapor states are identical. You cannot differentiate between a liquid or a vapor after this point. Okay, so all the isobars that I have drawn here can be classified into three. Either the isobar will pass through the critical point, which is pre-critical, or the pressure will be higher than pre-critical or lower than pre-critical. So this is how it can be drawn. Okay. So what is the critical point? Let us look more closely. So the temperature, pressure and specific volume of a substance at the critical point is called critical temperature, critical pressure and critical specific volume. So these are properties of a liquid. So for example, for water we have, these are the values for pressure, temperature and specific volume at critical point. Okay. At pressures above the critical pressure, there is no distinct phase change process. So you will not observe normal boiling what we see for subcritical pressures. Instead of that, the specific volume keep on increasing. Okay, and at all times there is only one phase that is present. So these are some typical characteristics of a critical point. Now let us look at TVV and PV plot. So this is the plot what we looked into the previous slides. So I have reduced the number of isobars. So this is one isobar P1. If you increase the pressure, this is P2. So I'll just repeat. This is how, this is your liquid region. Compressed liquid region. Liquid is heated, temperature increases. Then when it becomes mixture, the temperature remains constant. So this is my liquid region, this is my superheated vapor region, and critical point is shown here. Now this green curve, this is called vapor dome. So this covers my mixture where I have liquid and vapor together. So that region is covered by this vapor dome, and this line is called saturated liquid line, this line is called saturated vapor line. And these are the two isotherms shown, P1 and P2. Similarly, we can also plot a PV diagram for same process. So here we have compressed liquid, superheated vapor, critical point is also shown, and curves for saturated liquid line and vapor line. Similarly, we will have, now this plot shows isotherms T1 and T2. So if I maintain the temperature, the pressure will decrease when the liquid is reaching the saturated state. Once the liquid begins to boil, then we have a constant pressure and constant temperature, and once the liquid is completely converted to vapor, if you want to maintain constant temperature, the pressure will reduce. and volume will keep on increasing. Okay, so this process is what? Heating process. We are heating a liquid to become vapor. So the last plot what we talked here about liquid and vapor only. If I include also add solid phase, this is how the diagram will look like. This is your PV plot. So this region shows solid, this shows liquid, and this shows your vapor or gas. So there are various interfaces. We can have solid and liquid here, solid plus vapor here, and this is the triple line. And this plot is typically for substances that expand on freezing. For example, water. So for substance which contract on freezing, this is the plot what we have. So you can look at the difference here. So this part is hidden behind this, whereas this is drawn in solid lines. So this will be actually more clear when we are looking at PVD surface. Okay, so you can just note what are the various regions which are shown in these plots. We'll talk more about them when we talk about the PVD surface. Okay, one more plot of interest is PT plot. So we draw pressure at y-axis and temperature in x-axis. So again we have two plots where one is for substance that expand on freezing like water and for substance that contract on freezing. So here you can see a very distinguishing feature that the slope of this curve is negative. This goes backward. Okay, whereas this curve has a positive slope. So what is the difference it will have? So for example, if you maintain the temperature, if you increase the pressure, you can have a solid phase getting converted to liquid phase. So sorry, let me first talk about the various zones. So this zone shows you, this region shows you solid phase. Here we have vapor, and this is the region where we have liquid. So the interface between solid and liquid is this fusion line. The interface between solid and vapor is sublimation line, and this is your critical point, what we talked about in previous slides. This is a triple point where solid, liquid and vapor, all these phases can coexist. Similar points are shown in this plot also: solid region, liquid region, vapor region, and this is the triple point. This is a critical point. So beyond critical point, I cannot differentiate between a liquid and a gas. So we have one phase only, what we discussed in previous slide. Now let us look at the difference between substance that expand on freezing and that contracts on freezing. So this is for example water. So if I maintain my temperature constant and increase pressure, a solid can get converted to liquid. Okay, which will not happen here. Here I have to reduce pressure to convert solid to liquid. Here opposite happens. Okay, so this is a very typical feature of water, that it expands on freezing, which is not commonly seen in other substances. So this is about triple point. Moving on. So triple point is a point where all the phases are coexist in equilibrium. Okay. When we talk about PV and TV plot, we can also see a line called triple line. I'll talk about it in the next slide. Then the states on the triple line have same pressure and temperature but different specific volume V. And in PT plot we see only a point, but PV and TV will show a line. So PT plot we call it a triple point. So now let us try to combine these two. We have talked about PV plot and PT plot. If I combine these two, we can get a PVT surface. So let us start with an example of substance that expand on freezing, like water. Okay, so if I combine these two, I can get something like this. So from this side, if you take a projection, you will get a PT plot, and if you take a projection from the front, you will get a PV plot, what we have already discussed. Okay, so here some of the regions will become clear to you. So this is the region where we have solid, liquid is in this region, and vapor is in this region, and we have a critical point here. So we have one phase, this vapor and liquid are indistinguishable after the critical point, and this colored, blue colored zone shows you liquid plus vapor region, and below the triple line we have solid and vapor. Okay, and these are the different projections, UV projection and PT projection. So this triple line what you see here, that can be seen as a line here, but from this side it looks like a point. Moving on, similarly we can also plot PVT surface for a substance that contracts on freezing, unlike water. So these two plots we have already discussed. This is just combining them and looking at the projection. So if you look at this, this is your solid region. This is the interface between solid and liquid. Here, this region you have liquid, liquid plus vapor, and then vapor. This region has solid plus vapor. Again, the triple point shown here will be visible as a triple line shown here will be visible as a point here, which is called triple point. Moving on, so now we are will talk about steam. So steam has a number of interesting engineering applications. Okay, so for that you also need to define what is the quality or dryness fraction of steam. Okay, so this is your vapor dome. Until it reaches here, it is a mixture of liquid, saturated liquid and saturated vapor. So for this region we need to define what is the quality of steam, which is denoted by X. So X is basically can be defined as mass of vapor divided by total mass. So total mass include mass of liquid plus mass of vapor, and this is MV. Now total volume can be divided into two parts, liquid and vapor. So if I write in specific volume and mass, this is how I can write, or just doing some algebraic manipulation, I can write volume in this form, and if we substitute X here, I get V is equal to VF plus X of FGV. So this, when you have saturated liquid, you have, this is a VF, while saturated gas or saturated vapor has VG. So the difference between them is VFG. Okay. So let us come back to this equation. So basically what it says is, for any point, if I want to calculate by V, I can say V is a sum of VF plus X into VFG, difference between them. Similarly, I can define other properties also. This is basically a weighted average. I take VF, VG and the weighted average based on the distance. So basically I am considering this distance AB and AC, or to keep it in simple terms, this is the ratio of mass, and this is how we can define various properties. We can basically, this is weighted average for these properties. So what we can say from this chart is that if you want to calculate any property for a vapor and liquid mixture, you need to take the weighted average for those properties, weighted mass average for those properties, what is shown here. Now let us also look at TS plot. So x-axis shows you as entropy and y is for temperature. So let us look at one isotherm. So this is similarly, this is your vapor dome. This is your solid region, solid plus liquid region, liquid plus vapor region, solid plus vapor region, and region for superheated vapor. Now this line is for an isotherm where pressure is constant. So I have liquid water with me, I heat it, temperature will also change and entropy will also change. Now I reach solid plus liquid, sorry, let us begin with, this is the solid region. So I have solid ice with me. I start heating the ice, it will reach a saturated water, it will reach a state where the ice start to melt. Okay, this is point 2. Beyond point 2, if you keep on heating, I have a mixture of solid plus liquid. So for this mixture, the temperature will be constant, it will not change, but entropy will increase. From here, I enter the liquid region. So this is for liquid water. Now the temperature starts to change and entropy is anyway increasing because we are adding heat continuously. So now I reach 4, which is the boundary between liquid and liquid plus vapor phase. So from here onwards, I have vapor plus liquid, and again my temperature becomes constant. Okay, so once you get superheated steam after 0.5, then we have change in both temperature and entropy. Temperature is also increasing. So this is my TS plot for, this shows solid, liquid and vapor, all regions. Now we'll also look at HS plot. So these plots are basically used to find different properties or to do any calculation for various cycles. So that we'll talk about in later discussion. So here we'll just look at what are these plots and how we can read them. So this is HS plot. H is for enthalpy and S is for entropy. So this is how it can be shown schematically. We have saturated vapor line and saturated liquid line. So this is a vapor dome. Then there is a triple point line. After that you will have solid plus vapor. Critical point is shown. Let us look at one experimentally measured or drawn curve. So this can be drawn using your theoretical calculations or experimental measurements. So this is how it looks. So this red line shows you dryness fraction. Okay, these are the dryness fractions. For example, this is 0.75, 0.8, 0.9, and this is for dryness fraction 1. This bold red line is your basically vapor dome shown here. This is what is shown in this plot, and we see isotherms which are shown in green, and isobar, constant pressures, shown in blue color. So isotherms are this green colored line, temperature is shown, and 500 bar, 200 bar, this is your pressure. So this chart is given in your steam table, and this is commonly known as Mollier diagram. This is a very useful chart, and we'll talk about it in later discussion when we talk about power cycles, vapor power cycles. Another interesting and very useful plot is your pH plot. P is pressure and H is enthalpy. So all these plots, similarly we have vapor dome here, we have liquid region, vapor region here, and this dome has your liquid plus vapor. You see saturated line, x equal to 0 means pure liquid, saturated liquid, x equal to 1 means saturated vapor. So let us look at an actual chart. So this is how it looks. So the black line curves shows you dryness fraction, and red lines are for isotherms, temperatures. So this is a very useful chart when we talk about refrigeration systems. So this is a typical chart shown for a refrigerant, I think R134 or something. moving on. So let us also talk about equations of state and compressibility factor. So ideal gas equation you all must have heard. This is PV is equal to RT. I have removed N or M because we are talking about a unit mass or unit mole of that substance. Okay, so I can write PV is equal to RT. Now this is the ideal gas equation, and if I am using this equation, then I should be confident that my substance is following the ideal gas law properly or closely. But we know that ideal gas behavior is actually a good approximation only for high temperature and low pressure, or let's say high volume. So if you see a TV plot, this is the region where we can expect ideal gas behavior. Otherwise, especially near critical point, we get large errors. So let us have a closer look. So this is a TV plot for water, and various numbers are given here. So these are the percentage error. Okay, deviation from ideal gas equation, ideal gas behavior. So this blue shaded region shows you a region where the error is less than 1%. So this we are get 0.2 or 0.1% error in this region. Whereas if you go near to this region, especially near the critical point, we are getting a 270% error. Here we are getting a 50% error. So these points should be clear, or you should have some idea where to use the ideal gas equation and where not to use, where it is a good approximation and where it could be a very misleading, it could give you a very misleading picture. Okay, now how do you know where to use? So one solution is you have a similar plot for the particular substance that you use, or otherwise we can also define a factor which is known as compressibility factor, Z. So Z is defined as the ratio of PV and RT. It basically shows you deviation from ideal gas behavior. Ideally for ideal gas, when I say PV is equal to RT, then Z is equal to 1. So if you have a perfect ideal gas behavior, then Z will be equal to 1. But for real gases or gases which are deviating from ideal gas behavior, Z will be very different from 1. Okay. Now the challenge is I can have different plots for Z for different gases, or I can have one common or general chart where I can use it for any liquid, any vapor or any gas. Okay, so for that there is a principle of corresponding states. So what it says that the Z factor for all the gases can be approximated by using the reduced pressure and temperature. Now what are these reduced pressure and temperature? So if you take measured pressure and divide it by critical pressure, it becomes reduced. Similarly, given temperature divided by critical temperature for that particular substance gives you reduced temperature. So you can take different gases, you can you have these values, measured values for critical pressure and temperature, and then you can obtain PR and TR for them, and then using this PR and TR you can obtain Z. How? Let me show you. So this plot shows you Z. Z is given here as a function of PV and RT. This is a ratio of PV and RT what we defined, and x-axis shows you reduced pressure, and these green curves are for different TR values. Okay, so what we see here is that by reducing TR and PR, these various substances shown here, methane, ethylene, nitrogen, all these, they are falling on the same curve. Okay, all the data from this substance that collapse to the same curve. So for example, for one temperature ratio TR, reduced temperature TR1, all these substances are plotted here. Similarly for TR1.5, we see that all these measured values are can be approximated by using this green curve. Okay. Now other interesting points to be noted from this plot is at very low pressure where your PR is much less than 1. So this is my PR axis, this is 1. So if PR is less than 1, this region, this is what they are talking about. So what this statement says is that for PR much less than 1, gas behavior of an ideal gas behaves as an ideal gas regardless of the temperature. So you can see here at this region where my PR is low, all these PR curves are collapsing. So it is a good approximation to say that we have an ideal gas because all are approaching Z1. Z1 means ideal gas behavior. At high temperatures, for TR more than 2, ideal gas behavior can be assumed regardless of pressure. So here we see TR2. Here for all over this curve, the Z is higher than 0.9. Here it is even higher than 0.95, which is very close to 1 or very close to ideal gas behavior. Third point is that the deviation of gas from ideal gas behavior is greatest in the vicinity near the critical point. So this is our critical point is defined by, let us look at the definition of PR and TR. So if I have my critical point, I have P will be PR and T will be TR. So PR and TR are 1 for critical point, which is this curve. PR is 1 and this is for TR1. So this is the point which has largest deviation from the ideal gas behavior, critical point for any gas. Now to overcome this ideal gas approximation or to give a better representation, there are various other equations of states that are proposed. One of them is van der Waal equation of state, which tries to capture the real gas behavior. So this is the way it is expressed: P plus A by V square into V minus P is equal to RT. Okay. Now this A can be calculated using this. This represents intermolecular attraction, which will be there in a real gas but not in ideal gas. Similarly, B can be calculated using this. I will not go into the detailed derivation, but these are the known properties for any substance. And V represents your volume occupied by gas molecules, which are neglected in ideal gas assumption. Now, if you look at this equation carefully, if there is no A and B are 0, then this will reduce to ideal gas, PV is equal to RT. Another equation is virial equation of state, so which is defined like this. So P is expressed as a function of volume. So if I have this term only, P is equal to RT by V, this is your ideal gas. Now to account for real effects, these terms are added. Okay, and these coefficients A, B, C are functions of temperature. Okay, so we have function of temperature and volume here, which is going on. These are called virial coefficients, and these coefficients can be determined either experimentally or theoretically. So you can add a number of these terms using a experimental curve fit or some theoretical arguments, and which will help you to capture the real gas behavior more accurately. So with that I stop, and these are the various references I have used. I have taken most of the images shown here and plots from books by Sengel and Bowles, Borgnake and Sontag, and P.K. Nag. I have also taken some images from Encyclopedia Britannica, Google Images, Wikipedia, and this Engineering Toolbox website. With that, I thank you all, and if you have any questions, you can mail me at this email ID.